Hello everyone, in this video I'll be ranking the best spells in Wuchang Fallen Feathers on a tier list. There's about 40 different spells in the game and some of them are extremely overpowered, but some of them are not really that great. I guess I'll just quickly show off a few of my favorite spells to use, like the Demonbane Strike here, which can knock enemies down really easily, and it actually makes some of the harder bosses in the game a whole lot easier. So we'll be breaking down the most effective spells here from the top, starting with the Vorpal Blade spell. This is the first one that you get. It's okay, I guess. It uses only one skyborn might. It's a magic type, and I guess just to explain, like below my head here, you're going to see magic there, feathering. Some spells are classified as others. Now, these are going to scale differently depending on the stats that are required. So you can see here for this one, it scales with a 1 scaling in magic, whereas this one has a 1 scaling feathering. This one has scaling in both your magic and your vitality, and so on. So Vorpal Blade, unleash a blade that deals magic. It has some pretty decent range to it, so it does an alright amount of damage. You can cast it like that, and you can continually keep casting it. The damage from this isn't absurd or anything. It works well with like a one-handed sword build, but yeah, this is a spell that I think is useful in the early game, but the power creep is real. Later on, this spell is not as good, and there's actually better versions that heal you. There's another one that's kind of like this. I think I might just set it in the B tier, because it's not a terrible spell, but it's just, again, power creep. And next we got the Corruptive Flames here, which uses 2. It's a feathering, scales off your feathering stat, and it applies 10 corruption. You can see that there, the status attack. This one's not too bad, so it's good for applying corruption if you want to use that. So you go in there, you unleash this attack here, and it's going to home in on the enemy there and continually keep hitting them. It has a pretty good chance of striking the target, so that's kind of nice. So you can cast this. It's best to use it a bit away from the target though, because you can see there, and then it'll apply the corruption, which will just continually keep damaging the enemy. So it's an alright spell to use. It's just not really the best, and corruption I found to be relatively weak against a lot of bosses, so I think this one belongs maybe in the C tier. There's better ways to apply corruption in this game. And next we got Divine Blessing. This is a 4 skyborn might cost, pretty hefty, and this creates a healing pocket for you. So you can pop this down. You see there, my health is recovering pretty quickly, and you can actually get this kind of outside of the circle, like you can see there. It's actually very generous in this location. This is one of the better warding zones. There's one that reduces damage, but only reduces the damage you take by 20%. So this one's actually not bad. There's not a lot of great chances to get heals in on this game, but this one at least allows you to kind of strafe around inside the circle while you're fighting the boss, which can be pretty useful. I would say that this one goes around the A tier. It's not bad. Healing in this game is hard, especially sometimes it's not easy to drink your potion. She drinks it slower than they do in Dark Souls 2, so anything that can help you out with some healing is appreciated. And next we got Waspomancy. I think this is one of the coolest names in the game. 3 skyborn might cost. It's a feathering spell. It has a 2 scaling in feathering, and it applies 100% blight buildup. So blight reduces the enemy's max health. There are a lot of enemies and bosses that are immune to blight, however. And to show it off in action here, we go ahead, Waspomancy, and then the little waspy balls go and creep over and fight the boss, or hit the enemy there. Unfortunately, this was not enough to be able to apply the blight on the boss or the enemy here. And the thing is, it does have a bit of a casting animation, so you're stuck in place for like 2 whole seconds there. And then the corruption, or the blight, will apply. It's not crazy good. You can see the health bar has a tiny bit of green to it and it slowly builds up. I'm sure there are a few bosses in this game that are actually pretty weak to this status, but I don't find it to be that effective in all honesty. Blight is annoying when it happens to us, those stupid barrels that send it flying at us, but with this long casting time, like, you're literally standing right there. No boss is going to let you do this unharmed, and that is kind of an annoyance with this spell. It also doesn't give you alacrity if you get hit while casting it like some others do, so I've never really found the Waspomancy to be that effective, so I do think that this one is maybe like a C tier, maybe even D tier. There may be some instances where this is somewhat useful against certain bosses, but most bosses don't let you stand still and cast a spell like this, so I might even just put it a little bit lower. And next we got Divine Might. This increases the damage on your next attack. This only has a 1 skyborn might cost. What's good about this is if you're an axe player and you got some of those jumping attacks, this will power up your attack damage. It's kind of cheeks if you're using a one-handed sword, so I'll just show you here. A normal stab, 168 on the first hit. This obviously does the 2 attacks there. We cast this here, and then our next attack is going to be buffed up. Boom, 200. So that's a slight increase in the damage, but not enough to make it good. That translates into like roughly a 30% increase in your overall damage. It could be useful on some builds, especially axe builds, but I think that the time that it takes to cast just makes this a little bit worse than some of the other abilities that we do have in the game. Especially another one that uses a blue coloration of this, so I actually think this is a C tier, but it could be good on some axe builds. The extra 30% damage is nice, but you do have to cast this spell. That's one of the downsides, and then the damage boost is just fair for the 30% Skyborn Might cost, when you could use that Skyborn Might to do a quick charge heavy attack, which is a better way, I believe, to use the Skyborn Might. And next we get Divine Ward. Pray the Divine, reducing your damage taken for a time. As mentioned, this is not that great either. This one only ends up being an extra 20% damage boost. So you apply this down here, you take 20% less damage for a set amount of time. Not the best, in all honesty. It's better just to not get hit. There are bosses in this game that even if you have this applied, like the Tiger boss, I tried it with this, it still 2-taps you. So its usefulness is limited. There may be some bosses that you get a big benefit out of it, but the 20% damage negation is not really that good, I would say. So we're going to say this one is probably another. I might actually put this into the C to D tier. For the high Skyborn Might costs, like this costs 3 Skyborn Might, you're better off doing a lot of other things in this game. And even the healing spell that I talked about earlier, I feel like is a little bit better because you're going to get more mileage out of it. But next we have the Call of the Wild. This one actually hits really hard. It deals feathering damage. It has a 4 scaling in feathering, so it hits hard, and it takes 4 Skyborn Might. If you're a feathering build, this is pretty strong. So just to show it off here, we'll cast it. It has a long cast time, but you shoot these little birds here, and they go and track down the enemy. That's 1,275 damage for 4 Skyborn Might. It's pretty good. It's the fast casting that is really nice about that, so it's decent in times. I don't think it's like a great spell, but it's not a bad spell overall. So we'll set that somewhere around the B tier. I'd say it's a little bit better than the starting spell that we do get. And maybe I'll use one of the better spells here. Next, we'll go with the Echo of Lu Bingzhang here. This is an early game spell. It has a 3 Skyborn Might cost. However, there is a node on the tree that reduces the cost of this down to 2. It has 3 scaling and feathering, and it can trigger Alacrity if you're attacked while casting. This can actually cheese some bosses in the game. So where this is most useful is against bosses like Honglan, which you get this spell really early on in the game. So you jump back, and it's also the longest range spell in the game, so you can use this, jump back if you get hit with that. It doesn't do a massive amount of damage, but it's that dodge that you get with it that's super useful, and you can throw it really far. Unfortunately, we got something caught in the way there. I don't know the skill tree right now that gives you the 2 cost, which is super useful because, yeah, you get that jump away. It somewhat stuns the bosses too, so casting this makes it so that you can get away from the enemy, and its damage keeps going up too, which is really nice. So yeah, it's actually a really good spell overall. And if you're struggling with some of the early game bosses, sometimes it's just best to dodge and pop the Echo Lu Bingzhang here. So I actually think that this spell is it's an early game goat. So I think I have to put this in the S tier, because if you're struggling on some bosses that literally you can't do nothing against, sometimes it's just best to dodge, cast this, dodge, cast this. If you get attacked while casting it, you can cast it again. The 2 Skyborn Might cost is also really nice from this too. So yeah, that's another big benefit, is unlocking the skill tree to get to cost not that much. It cheeses Honglan, one of the worst bosses in the early game. Next is the Echo Dhutanga. This has a 1 cost with the boosted ability here, and it actually has a follow-up attack too. It has 2 scaling in the magic, and it applies 50 burn. Now, oddly enough, if you search for the best spells in the game, a lot of online websites are saying this is the best spell in the game, and I think that that's kind of silly. So going ahead with this spell here, you're going to see that first hit there, 340 damage. It hits in a pretty large area of effect, but you do it's pretty easy to get hit while you're casting this. It does have that follow-up attack, which is nice, and the burn is also nice, but you have to be really close to be able to apply this on the enemy, so that is something that's a little bit unfortunate, is you do have to get somewhat lucky with your being able to go ahead there and then follow it up with that second attack. Can be decent, but I do think that we do get a better burn application spell early on in the game, so there's actually a few really good early game burn spells. I wouldn't say this is the best spell like a lot of online places are saying. It's okay. The fact that this is like one of the first spells that you get, I think it's decent enough, but there's some better fire ones that we do have, which we'll get to. So I guess there's also, alongside that, is the Infernal Flames here, which sends forth the mask. It looks really cool. Reminds me of one of the previous Fortnite updates. It applies 70 burn buildup and has 3 scaling in magic, and it requires 2 Skyborn Might. And then the Burning Flames, which has a 3 Skyborn Might cost, only 30 burn buildup, but this is a little deceiving because it hits multiple times and has 1 scaling in fire. So with the Infernal Flames here, this is a cool spell because it shoots out that mask, which I think looks really cool. So whenever you go to cast that, boom, you shoot out that mask, and then it does 500 damage, almost, yeah, full stack of burn there. That's pretty good because you had to cast the previous one twice to be able to apply it onto this enemy. It does a decent amount of damage, and the mask tracks in on the enemy too, which is really nice. So that is actually pretty solid, and it's a spell that you get relatively early on. So I think that this one is a little bit better. I'm going to put it into the A tier just because it's nice to be able to have a homing in attack like that. And then with the Burning Flames, what's kind of cool about this is you jump back while casting it, and then you shoot out those fireballs like that. It does more fire damage and more fire buildup too, so it does have a higher cost, but the nice thing is you get this dodge with it as well, which just makes this, I think, the best version of a fire spell that you can get relatively early on. Bosses like the Tiger are weak to fire, so this can help with making them a lot more easy. So for that, I actually think the Burning Flames, it gives you mobility, it gives you damage. It does have a higher cost than the other fire spells, but it's going to be an easier one to land because the projectiles are quick and it gives you that extra mobility. Despite having the higher cost, it has more damage and more burn buildup than the others. The two S tier choices so far are just really good for making certain bosses that are walls for a lot of people much easier, like Honglan and the Tiger. So these two spells can massively increase your chances of success against those bosses. The leveling is, I'm taking all that into account with these, but I do think that these two stand above the rest as far as early to mid game because of how easy they make some of the hardest bosses, and also just in general. I think I'll do some of the lightning spells next. So we got Heavenly Thunder, the Thunderstorm, Echo of Ai Nengqi, and my favorite, the Echo of Zhao Yun, which is actually pretty crazy. So these all scale off magic here in a variety of ways. So Heavenly Thunder, 4 scaling, Thunderstorm, 2 scaling, same with Ai Nengqi, and then 4 scaling Zhao Yun. With this, it has 100% paralysis build up with 3 Skyborn Might, 30%, and then this one has 30 and 0 here. So Heavenly Thunder, the 3 Skyborn Might. Whenever you go to cast it, this is what it looks like. You slam down and boom, it creates that big lightning aura there, which is pretty cool. And then you just have to watch out because, yeah, if you want to cast it again, you're going to have a bit of distance, and then boom. It's pretty decent at hitting in an area of effect, but I do think there's some better lightning and thunder spells here, so that is okay, but not the best. I think it's probably around B tier. Quick activation, and maybe I'll throw it just maybe top of the B tier. And next we have the Thunderstorm, so I'll cast this one down. Similar activation, it tracks towards the enemy there and hits multiple times. You can already see the damage was a lot better off of that. It is actually a bit more effective off large bosses because they can get hit multiple times, and you can see there where it does have its limitations where this boss was able to move out of it, but there are some bosses in the game where they're so large that they get hit repeatedly from this, making it a little bit more effective than the Heavenly Thunder. Despite they have a similar cost, this one does 100 paralysis, this one hits 30, so if this hits 4 times, it's better than this one, making it a little bit better, and I have to grade that accordingly on the tier list. So I think this one is A tier. I'll throw it somewhere around there. But next is actually one of my favorite spells in the game with the Echo Zhao Yun. The reason why, it's especially potent against inner demons. Some of the hardest boss fights in the game is against the inner demons. Those are the ones that wear the little hats that you see whenever your madness is really high. Not really applicable in this case, but whenever you use this, you want to get in really close. Unfortunately, that's the only really big downside to it. So you go ahead here. There is a activation that you can get that makes this cast a little bit easier. But yeah, you see it there. It literally melted that boss. If it's against an inner demon, not only will it melt their health, but it stuns them too. So this spell is absolutely insane. Against one of the later game bosses, you can check out my build guides and how to beat the boss, but this is one of the key principles. Anything that's against the demons, there's 2 really good spells, both magic and feathering. I actually think that this one does belong on the S tier. It's that good. It literally will cheese. You see it there. The damage against normal enemies is crazy, but the damage against some bosses and the stun that it provides makes them, it literally is a cheese for certain bosses. So we're gonna go with that there. Burning Flames Burning Flames might be top of the A tier in all honesty. We'll just maybe readjust that there. And next to the Echo of Ai Nengqi here. So this does a little bit of a jump. You shoot your bow there. It's good if there's a large split between the enemies, but or if you're able to land this off really close. But you see there, even the damage from that is not as good as the other lightning spells that we had. So yeah, it does suffer a bit. And the true benefit of fighting Ai Nengqi is actually the Flamebringer Sword. This spell is probably around C tier in all honesty, or even, I might even say it's a D tier spell. We're going to put that down at the bottom. There are better spells in this game, as you've seen with the lightning from this one here. But the thing is, you want the Flamebringer Sword from Ai Nengqi paired with one of these fire spells can melt some of the bosses like the Tiger so much easier. So And we'll continue the lightning with the last lightning spell that we have here, the Echo Zhang Xianzhong. This is from the Tiger boss, so the Echo of the Tiger. 3 Skyborn might cost, 100 paralysis, and 5 scaling in magic. So it is the best scaling in the magic stat. If you got a really high magic, it's going to be pretty decent. And it gets that 3 Skyborn might cost with the skill tree. So you go in here, boom, and shoot him, knock him down. It's nice for that big knockdown too, especially if you got the one-handed swords here, which are going to continually gain Skyborn might for you. So that can be pretty effective as well. So we're going to pop this again and then jump at them, knocking them down. The knockdown effect is really nice, and I think that's what makes it so good. The paralysis buildup is nice as well, but yeah, it's one that I would say is probably like a high B tier to maybe A tier. There's actually probably bosses that are really bothered by this and get knocked down and stun locked, so that could potentially be like an A tier. Yeah, I think it's I feel like there's better yeah, we'll actually readjust this a little bit here. Yeah, I think this is a bit more fair, just because that knockdown effect is really nice. But speaking of knockdown, we also have the Echo of Lu Hongliu. This isn't so much a knockdown, it's a feathering spell, 3 casting, and it has 1 in feathering. What makes this actually really good, though, is the stunning. There's some bosses that you can get a charge heavy off behind them and then follow up with another attack. Now with this, you can see there, it's a screech and then it stuns this boss here, and then you can get we didn't get the posture break in there, but it's really effective at being able to stun bosses. So boom, yeah, you can knock them down. Against bosses like the Bo Sorcerer, which is one of the more annoying bosses in the game, it's going to be extremely effective because it's able to get, if you, let's say you got a backstab off against the boss, you pop this spell, it stuns her, and then you can move around, get the backstab off again. So you can actually stun lock the boss using this spell, making it extremely useful. It also causes despair buildup to the caster, so there is a bit of a downside for us, but I do think that outweighs all the negatives because being able to stun lock a boss is nuts. So I'm not sure, I think it's an intended mechanic. I don't think it's really a cheese. It makes some of the fights a lot easier, especially Bo Sorcerer, any of the humanoid type bosses that you get the backstab heavy attacks off on. It's extremely effective for those. It also will knock some bosses going flying too, but for the most part, it's going to give you easy stuns. And speaking of the Bo Sorcerer, the Echo of the Bo Sorcerer, this has a 5 Skyborn might cost, so yeah, it's hefty. You do want to have that ability that reduces its cost. This channels water vapor and condenses it into sharp icicles that pierce enemies, dealing damage and causing frostbite buildup with 30 frostbite buildup per attack and 4 scaling in magic. It also looks pretty cool whenever you go to cast it, so whee! You pull up the water into the air and then make it into ice crystals and then stab. Not the craziest damage, that was 1,000 though, that's pretty decent. Oh geez, that was pretty decent damage overall, but yeah, it's frostbite in this game didn't get treated as nicely as it was in Elden Ring. I still think this is cool though. It does have a very high cost and you're not going to get as much damage as some of the other spells that we do have in the game. It's around mid to late game too, so it's an okay one. I think that the high cost makes it a little bit less attractive compared to some of the other options, so I'll just set her in the B tier because I think that there's better ones to go with. Like Golden Scepter here, 3 costs, summon a spiral beam of light that hits enemies for magic damage, 4 scaling in our magic stat. So with this one, it's actually pretty cool looking. So we go ahead here, we charge it up, and then boom, you bring that out, and then it shoots away at the boss there, dealing massive amounts of damage. Yeah, no special statuses, nothing needed. The best status in this game is the dead status, and that's exactly what you get with this spell here. So yeah, the Golden Scepter is pretty crazy. It's meant to be. Yeah, this one is easily a S tier pick just because of the massive amounts of damage. Yeah, I might just said it right, or I think it's better than these two. These kind of just stun the bosses or give you escape. This one just pure raw damage, long cast time, but only a 3 Skyborn might cost. If you're built around magic, this is gonna be one of the better damaging spells. And next we got the Polygonal Container, hilarious name, 2 Skyborn might cost. Summon a Starlight blessed by the god of shoot, a strike an area dealing magic damage. It's got 4 scaling in magic. It's an okay one. So showing off what this ends up looking like. So we'll go against this boss here and go with the casting, slam it down to the ground. And then it does that like stun ability there. So for its cost, not too bad. And it comes out relatively quickly. It does kind of stun the enemies a little bit, but it's not to the effect of some of the other stuns in this game. So not crazy. I wouldn't say that this is super useful in many situations. We just saw a crazy magic spell. So this one I'd have to say is possibly somewhere around, we'll put it maybe B tier. It's not crazy good, but it's also not, it's not like anything to write home about, I guess. So we'll put her somewhere around there. And this next spell, I actually think I have to make a new tier for this. The Echo of Bo Magus. 3 cost, creates a barrier around you can withstand damage. Why this is so crazy? Well, let me show you. So, when you pop this, it has a relatively slow animation, but you pop it down like that. You want to take the skill tree that makes so you don't get hurt while you're or doesn't knock you down while you're casting it. And then whenever we get attacked, some bosses is much better, but we can resist an attack there. You can see 3 attacks we resist. This boss does attack an annoyingly amount of times, so that's not really the best way to showcase it. It's better against bosses, especially some of the heavy hitters in this game. The only downside to this is how late you get it, but this is definitely a spell that can go at the S tier. It may even, as I mentioned, needs a new tier. We need the S tier or S plus tier. It's the best spell I believe in the game, just because of how useful it is. You can face tank bosses. Now, one of the hardest bosses is Zhao Yun in this game. What you can do is you can use this spell, take out an axe, use leech, or really any weapon. The axe just work best for me. Cast this, continually keep attacking. Whenever the shield breaks, recast it, keep attacking. You'll be able to regain your skyborn might and just keep keeping yourself full of health if you end up taking any damage. Likely not when you have this up. It's busted. Absolutely crazy. There are some other spells in this game, like this one here, which I'll move up a little bit, that are also really good, but this one, Epical Bo Magus, is seriously so good. And next we got the Echo of Huang Yan. Now this does corruption buildup, call forth a legion of insects that splits into multiple groups, scattering in all directions. That's where it gets you. Deals feathering damage and causes corruption buildup, can trigger alacrity, which gives you skyborn might back if you're casting and get hit with it. 3 skyborn might cost, 3 scaling and feathering, which is nice. So what this ends up looking like when you get into an actual fight. So we go ahead here, you're gonna pop this down, creates these little wasps that kind of track down on the target. If you're trying to do a corruption buildup, this is gonna be much better than other options. Corruption is kind of like poison in this game. It's not super useful, but I think of all corruption spells, this is one of the better ones, and it does home in on the enemy, which makes it pretty useful. So I'd actually say we might put this somewhere around B tier. Actually, I think this one could potentially just go C tier. There's a better version of it. It's just good in the early game until you get something like the Dhutanga or Lu Bingzhang, which is a lot better, but yeah, it's an alright one. And next is the Echo Bai Kru, the big baby here. 2 skyborn might cost, 5 scaling into magic, leap backwards, and unleash a pillar of water strike enemies. If you get hit, you get alacrity. So it's actually pretty decent. If you're in a fight, you can jump backwards like that and spit out the water like that. It's nice because it gives you that ability to dodge. I unfortunately got hit there, but yeah, you see, we got in really close there and it just shredded down the health of this enemy. So that can be nice because you can literally, if the enemies are jumping at you, it's a little bit better here because you'll get a bit more damage. So jump away. Oh, it used that attack. Of course it did. Not super good unless you were able to, yeah, get it away from attack like this, and then it retaliates much harder. So this is more of a skill that you're going to use, not like a parry, but almost like a parry, because yeah, that water spillage is much better if you get hit while casting it. So this one I would say is it's probably like a high B tier to potential A tier. Yeah, I might just put it in the A tier. I had some success with it, kind of similar to the others that give you alacrity and that jump back, but its damage is much higher. Use it to prevent, or use it as a kind of a parry type attack, and you'll get a good usage out of it. And next we got Ethereal Form. Merge with the Void to evade attacks, gaining invisibility and Skyborn Might. 1 Skyborn Might cost. This is, for the mid to end game, the best spell that you'll get. You pop this, and then you get to avoid your next attack. Of course, we have the demon here, but you see there, we avoided that attack with it, so that is pretty nice. You can use it just to continually keep oh shit. You basically use that to avoid the next attack. Whenever you cast it here, you do have it for about 5 seconds, so you see those little Naruto tags flying around your character. Once they disappear, then you no longer have it. You actually can get this from a one-handed sword pretty early on in the game. The evasive maneuver from the Darkfrost Edge is pretty much the same effect, which is extremely overpowered, but being able to get it with a weapon or a spell is really useful. What's also nice about this is that 1 Skyborn Might cost is refunded to you every time you dodge an attack with it. So yeah, you can endlessly keep casting this. It is, I would say, the best spell until you get Bo Magus, which is late game. This is one that can carry a lot of the fights, especially the harder ones and bosses that hit really hard, like the Tiger. You can dodge his attacks with this very special attack. Next, we got the Spiritual Flames. Call forth Spiritual Flames that burn the very ground and explode, causing feathering damage. It's 3 Skyborn Might, feathering scaling with 5 in feathering. and this is perfected by Bo Magus. So the Spiritual Flames, it's a pretty cool spell here. We do have other ones that are a little bit stronger, but you're going to see it in effect here. So you go down, light the flame up, and then they have Corruption. It also knocks them down, and they're taking that damage over time. So it's really nice for the relative, like 3 cost is not, oh geez, not too bad, but the Corruption damage is nice. Since it does cause feathering damage, it's boosted by anything that will further boost up your feathering, so that can be nice, but I think this spell is one that's a little bit lackluster compared to some of the others that we do have. Corruption just being, there's not really many bosses that get hurt too badly by Corruption. Yeah, maybe this is somewhere around, I would say probably around the high B tier. I try to keep these lists balanced to the B tier as much as possible. So yeah, I think it's a decent option, but there's better ones out there. Like next we got the Echo of Fang Ling. Unleash foul gas from beneath the earth that explodes, dealing feathering damage. 3 scaling and feathering, so a little bit less. 3 skyborn might cost. And it's a cool spell. So this is what it'll look like. Echo of Fang Ling. You slam it down, and then it creates the feathering explosions there. A bit of a stun, which is nice too. So that can be pretty useful as well. Oh, this guy's stupid Corruption. Corruption's only really bad against us. You see there though, that should have hit and it didn't. So that's one of the unfortunate pieces. It is a weird spell to actually land, but if the enemy's in close, you can usually hit it pretty consistently. So that is nice, but it's just one of those ones that's a little bit harder than the others. And after the Fang Ling fight, you'd expect a bit more. At least Fang Ling's dress looks cool. I think this is a C tier spell compared to something like Honglan Echo here, or the Echo Honglan. This is a late game spell, so that's the only downside. 3 feathering or 3 skyborn might cost 5 scaling and feathering. Unfurl your wings. It can trigger Alacrity if you cast it while you're being attacked. So that is nice too. But what this looks like, it actually has a pretty cool appearance. So whenever you do this, you fly out like that and shoot out them with your wings there. So it can be pretty good. It's better though if the enemy goes to attack you. So that I missed the attack. It gives you that big dodge though, which is nice. But physical attacks are really going to be where it shines. So we'll wait for them to attack me here, and then dodge it, boom, and it shredded them down. So yeah, the jump that you get from it is pretty useful. I think these spells that give you a bit of extra mobility are super useful because of how devastating it can be. It does have the 2 skyborn might cost with the upgrade. So I actually think the Echo of Honglan is actually a really good spell. So we're going to put this one somewhere around the A tier. It's pretty effective, especially once you get flowing with it. It might even just move this down to the B tier, somewhere around the B tier. The healing's nice, but yeah, this one is just extremely effective for dodging and a little bit extra feathering damage. And next is the Echo of the Soulwood. Hurl chunks of gore that explode upon impact, dealing feathering damage and causing corruption buildup. The corruption buildup also affects the caster. 1 skyborn might cost 70 corruption buildup and 2 feathering scaling. So this is what it looks like. You cast it and it shoots out that little ball. You get the buildup too. It's something that you got to pay attention to. The corruption buildup's decent. It only has that 1 skyborn might cost, so you got that upgrade. So that's nice. But you see there, it debuffs yourself, and after about 6 or 7 castings, you're going to apply the corruption to yourself. And you can see there, we just barely affected the boss with it, or the enemy there with the corruption. So yeah, not really that amazing in general because of how long it takes to actually apply it, and the fact that if you apply it on the boss, you probably have it on yourself too. And corruption sucks. You can see my health slowly ticking away. This is not something you want when you're fighting a boss. So I actually think this one is possibly one of the worst spells in the game. Yeah, we're going to throw it down in the D tier, unfortunately. Next is Plume Vortex. 3 skyborn might magic with 4 scaling and magic. Can trigger Alacrity and can also cause stagger, which is actually... You want to stagger bosses as much as possible, obviously, but this one is really effective. So with this, you jump up, screech, and then knock them down. Being able to knock down enemies is extremely effective in this game. Anything that gives you Alacrity as well is really good. This spell is actually pretty solid overall, just because of that stun that it gives and the quick activation, the Alacrity. All of that makes it a very effective spell that I would have to say is probably somewhere around the A tier in terms of effectiveness. It's just a nice one. And next is the Echo of Liu Cheng'en, which has a 2 skyborn might cost. You get it relatively middle of the game. Dance with Phantom Blades, unleashing a relentless storm that builds up Frostbite. 50 Frostbite build up, 2 scaling and magic. And it also is another spell that looks pretty cool. So show it here in action. So you go with this, and it creates this big whirlwind of ice. And then we can go ahead, casting it nice and close. It's best, obviously, you see there, if it's used while you're nice and close to the enemy there. But yeah, it's not bad overall. The only problem is the Frostbite buildup is not fast on it, and I feel like This is kind of similar to the Echo Dhutanga here, but Frostbite and Burn is actually superior to Frostbite in this game. In Elden Ring, kind of the other way around. This is a spell that I would say is probably, yeah, somewhere around the B tier. It's like a worse version of the Dhutanga spell, so we'll throw it accordingly. But next up, we got the Crimson Edge Incantation, which is kind of funny. It's got the incantation in there. 1 Skyborn Might casting, and you recover health on hit. 4 scaling and feathering too. So you may recognize that appearance. It's very similar to the very first spell that we get in the game. But what's nice about it is you heal yourself while using it. So yeah, you can go ahead here. Not going to be very high damage, but you see there 250. Not bad. It's good for recovering your health, but that's really about it. You're going to have to cast this a million times to actually get some meaningful damage on the enemy. But if you're using a one-handed sword like I have here, it can be decent because you can keep your distance from the boss. It doesn't lose any scaling at distance either. You can actually cast this from really far away, and you see there, we're keeping that 255. And the nice thing about one-handed swords is you generate Skyborn Might just by being alive and existing. So you can just literally, if you're bad at dodging, you can just avoid the bosses and then just cast this, and it'll recover any of the health that you may have lost. The healing that you get from it is not that great, but overall, I do think that this is a decent spell. It's better than its brother here, so it's definitely higher than that. I would have to say it's probably a B tier option as well. Just not high damage, but it's quick, low Skyborn Might cost. But if you're going for a 1 Skyborn Might, you may as well just use the Ethereal Form. And next we got the Echo of the Giant, or Great Centipede. 4 Skyborn Might cost, 1 skilling and magic, and it uses your magic here. This is one that I am weirded out by. Don't know how I feel about it, so showing it off here. You create this circle, boom, and then it shoots it off at them. Now this is one of the more annoying spells, I guess, because you do have to stay into your spot there to be able to cast it and get away with it, but it can be good. This spell is annoying when like the demons use it against you. You can see here though, the long casting time is really unfortunate because, yeah, you see it right there. You can't dodge out of it. You're stuck in that animation. It does good damage, but there's better options like the Golden Scepter here, which does kind of the same thing without that long casting animation. I'm just going to put this in the C tier because, yeah, no boss is going to let you cast that freely. So it doesn't make a lot of sense. But next we got the Echo Zhang Xianzhong here. 2 Skyborn Might cost, feathering, and it's reduced to 2 from the ability there. 4 scaling and feathering. This is the last spell that you get, so this is one that you're going to use in New Game Plus. Yeah, it's pretty cool though. So going off to show it off, eat our Plume Grace there, and jump back, and then boom! Yeah, it looks cool. And then we got our demon here as well that's going off at us, so yeah, you can dodge with it, you can attack with it, and then boom, it deals a massive amount of damage there, so it's pretty good. It's pretty good. We'll just put it at that. For the last spell you get in the game, it's good. Since you get it so late, I'm gonna put it, I can't put it at the very top. It's probably the best, I'll be honest, it's probably one of the best damaging spells in the game. This one just is, this stuns a lot of bosses, it does a lot of damage. Yeah, we'll maybe just throw it a little bit higher. Just because it's so late in the game that you get it, you're only gonna use it in a New Game Plus, just a heads up on that. But next we get the Demonbane Strike. This is similar to this spell here. This is the magic version. This is the feathering version. So it has a 3 Skyborn Might cost. It has 4 scaling and feathering. And this is the spell that I showed up at the very start of this video. Whereas most useful is the knockdown that it provides. So you go boom and knock them down. The Demon of Obsession fight, that's one of the harder fights in the game, is made trivial with this because this will knock them on their butt. And then you just go in with the attacks after it. Super useful. It does crazy amounts of stun, and yeah, similar to the other one, it's another spell that is really, really good. So this is one that I'd actually say is another, yeah, we'll throw it in the S tier here. I may actually move these down a little bit just because they're kind of cheesy. They stun the boss, so I'll just readjust that. I do like the Echo Lu Bingzhang though. It falls off a little bit later on in the game when you have other options to do some of the similar things. And then we got Darkfrost Flames. This 40 or 50 frostbite buildup, and it's similar to the other mask. It chases down the enemy, and 3 scaling magic, 2 Skyborn Might cost, and go magic ice mask. Boom. So yeah, frostbite buildup, not crazy, but it does leave that like lingering cloud there, which can apply a little bit more frostbite. Frostbite is so hard to build up in this game. I've had a challenging time getting it to actually proc on an enemy. So that is something just to keep in mind, that it's not going to be easy. I actually think the burn condition is a little bit better just because burn does extra damage to the target when they get afflicted by burn. So while we have the fire mask in the A tier, I think this one is like a B tier. It's just not as good as the burn. Burn is so overpowered in this game. And next we got the Aurum Feather Force. So these are from the birds that you see everywhere. Conjure forth the golden blade, releases force forward, can trigger alacrity if you attack while casting. 2 scaling magic, 2 skyborn might cost. It's a cool one. This is one again that you want to use while you're getting attacked. So you go whatcha, and then it's better if you are able to dodge an attack. That wasn't very high damage, 414. But if we get attacked while using it, show it off there. Boom! It gives you alacrity. So same damage, unlike some of the other ones here. It's not bad. It's just okay, I would say. It's an okay option. Gives you that jump back, which is nice. I like that, and it gives you a skyborn might if you get attacked while casting it. But I feel like there's some better ones in this game. I might even just say this is like somewhere around the B tier, maybe somewhere around the middle of the B tier. The Lotus Soulflame is pretty funny. It has the 5 skyborn might cost, pretty expensive. Magic, 5 scaling magic though. This is a cool one because it does a lot of damage. So whenever you go against an enemy here, we go ahead with this. You do have to have that 5 skyborn might, which is a very high cost, but yeah, you're gonna see this here. Go ahead, cast it, does take a few seconds, and then boom, it shoots that out there. It does pretty good damage. It's really useful against some of the larger bosses in this game, just because of that large area you can see whenever we cast this. It does take a second. You gotta get really lucky with it, but if you're right up hugging a boss like the tiger boss, that can do a lot of damage really quickly. So yeah, it doesn't have any statuses, but it's an alright choice. Might actually put this around high B tier. I think that there's other spells that are a bit better, just because this doesn't have any statuses and the damage is good but not crazy. So yeah, we'll set that there. Now for the last two. The Cinder Incantation only has 1 skyborn might cost, and you leap backwards, unleashing a burst of flames, causing burn buildup of only 10, but whenever you get hit, it does trigger alacrity, 2 scaling in your magic. So to show that off, boom, jump back, shoot the fire. Yeah, very short range. You do have to hit the target, so jump back, burn. You can usually set the burn status off with that. Burn is nice, but this is a very hard spell to land. Low cost, which is nice, but you are kind of vulnerable while casting it here. So you see, even if that target's right in front of us, we missed with that attack, making it a really hard one to land. It's best if you use it when the boss is coming at you. You see there, we dodged the attack, but it wasn't enough. We'll try that again. This is a little bit better option, but yeah, we got hit really hard with that too. So you do have to eat a few attacks to actually get the Cinder Incantation off. So I would say this one is one that's hard to hit. So we'll actually just put this around C tier. It's probably good against a couple bosses that are really on your, like, sticking on to you, because then you can jump back and avoid it, but there's some better options here. And finally is the Echo of Zhu Youjian. Gather energy from any incoming spell, absorb it, gain skyborn might, then unleash in a powerful explosion. So there's some bosses that are really, this is really good against. The feathering is nice too, because it does a bit of feathering damage. So it's one that you actually have to, like, to actually get an effect from it, you have to have someone cast something at you. So this guy ain't casting, he's being a bit of a lame. We'll try to trigger out that corruption attack that he does if we don't die from the next hit. And oh, then we got our demon coming after us. A great time for this. So yeah, he's casting that here now. So this will absorb it, you see there. It absorbs those spells, which is cool. They're going at it, thank frick. And then hopefully they'll come closer, because this will do a big boom and deal a bit of damage to them. It's just good for absorbing the attack. And there you go, the explosion. The explosion's hard to land, but it can stop a lot of spells. Bosses typically have a combination of spells and attacks that they'll do. So yeah, you can see there, it's absorbing it. Woohoo! So it absorbed that. We'll try to keep the, I just want to showcase the damage. It's hard to get the damage to apply. I think there's some bosses where this would be really good against, especially if you're on a New Game Plus run. Because it'll just absorb all those attacks, and then what it's going to do is do that explosion after, I think it's like 15 or 20 seconds. She healed, of course she did. We're trying to keep her close to that. She's not going to do any casting, but yeah, it'll explode and deal the damage. Maybe I'll just recast it to be able to explode it there, and then yeah, 700 damage. That's pretty good. It's going to be great against any attacker that has a lot of magic scaling. So yeah, the Echo of Zhu Youjian, this is the only, like, spell barrier type spell in the game. And I think that's enough to put it up into the A tier. So there you have it. Echo Bo Magus, best spell in the game, blocking 3 attacks, and being able to not get knocked down by them is huge. Ethereal Form is like the cheaper version of it. Best damaging spell in the game is obviously the last spell that you get, which cool animations. The spell here that knocks down enemies. The Echo of Zhao Yun, that spell is really useful. Obviously, you get it later on in the game, but there's one boss, you fight Zhao Yun, you get the spell, and then there's another boss after Zhao Yun that's very weak to this, so that's why it's obviously up high, and then in New Game Plus, extremely useful. Golden Scepter, huge damage, and the Demonbane Strike, being able to destroy demons, really good. Echo Lu Bingzhang is really useful early on in the game. And then the Echo of the Hongliu here with the this spell here. These two, Echo Lu Bingzhang and Echo Hongliu, early game, but can stun bosses. So yeah, there's a lot of really good spells in Wuchang Fallen Feathers. Let me know your thoughts, though. Sometimes certain spells are really good against specific bosses, like Waspomancy I thought was pretty weak and lackluster. Maybe there's a boss that's really weak to it that I just didn't test it against. There's not a lot of information on what bosses are weak to what as of yet, until the data miners do their thing. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit the subscribe button below if you found this video useful. I hope you have a great day. Subscribe for some more Wuchang Fallen Feathers. I also did a tier list of the best weapons, so check that one out as well. And have a great day. I'll catch you all in the next one.